Welcome to Tremendous Talk. We got the industry, tea, and the jokes. Actors, directors, musicians, and more. You're listening to Tremendous Talk.
Hey everyone, I'm Law.
And I'm Ash, and this is a Tremendous Talk podcast.
Yeah, each week join us as we guide you through the realms of Hollywood and beyond as we speak to industry professionals in the spotlight.
So grab a boba tea and leave your shoes at the door. Welcome to Tremendous Talk.
Tremendous Talk is back, baby. Always excited to be here with you, Ash. I miss you in real life and on the podcast. But I'm excited. This week we are talking to an author, the wonderful Abigail Hing Wen.
Yes, we're talking to an author today, which means cozy vibes, cozy books. Cuddle up in like a book nook with your little rain coming out the window with a cozy cup of joe or a cup of tea, snuggled up in your little book. Oh, nice mug, Law.
Oh, it's just my cozy mug. It's for the author day.
Your cozy, tremendous book. I bet it's full of hibiscus tea.
Yeah, there's definitely something in here.
Abigail has a new book coming out called Kisses, Codes, and Conspiracies. And we're so excited to get into this juicy drama of a love triangle. Kisses, Codes, and Conspiracies is a young YA book out now.
Right now.
It releases August 13th, in case you're watching this in the past, after we release this.
Somehow.
Yes.
Congratulations on time travel.
It follows Tan Lee as he finds himself embroiled in an unusual love triangle, all while trying to defuse a heist, unravel a conspiracy, and navigate the most complicated babysitting assignment ever.
And as an added plus for this Bay Area boy and other Bay Area natives, it takes place in the Bay, which is very exciting. But Abigail Hing Wen is a New York Times best-selling author of Love Boat Taipei, a Barnes & Noble Young Adult Book Club pick, and is an executive producer of the Paramount Plus film adaptation Love in Taipei. She's also authored its companion novels Love Boat Reunion and Love Boat Forever.
Welcome to the Tremendous Talk podcast. Please keep all hands and legs in the vehicle at all times. Abigail Hing Wen!
Woo! First of all, thank you so much for joining us on the Tremendous Talk podcast. We love uplifting, creators, especially BIPOC creators, especially Asian Americans who are out there making a name for themselves and also like spreading great representation for our community. But before we start all of our podcasts, Ash always leads us in a quick little speed round. So I hope you're prepared for that.
Do it. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be chatting with the two of you.
Yeah.
Oh, we're stoked. And it's especially like for me, publicity manager of Tremendous, I get so excited when we get to work with our friends. Like we worked with Abigail on her film, and this is just such like a good full circle moment for us. So speed round commences. What's your favorite boba order?
Boba order. Oh, classic.
Love
Just
it.
like
Love
milk
it, love it.
milk tea with boba kind of thing. Love it.
Love it.
Easy.
Stick to the OGs. What is your favorite comfort food? It's been a hard day. Traffic was bad. Your pens all fell out of your purse. What's your comfort food that fixes it?
Oh, a great question. I think I love a chai tea, chai latte.
That is like a
that's so
cozy,
great.
There's
Nice
something
warm
warm
mug.
about it.
I actually have my mug here.
Cozy vibes. I'm here for it. Okay, what's a show or something that you're binge watching right now?
Ooh, I just saw House of the Dragons and I keep rewatching it and I don't know how I'm going to wait till the next episode.
Yeah, I'm with you, especially with the end of that season.
Cliffhanger.
I was just like, excuse me.
Right.
there's some stuff I'd like to know.
I feel stressed because I'm waiting for the conclusion, which won't come for like 2 years.
Yeah, totally. I'm with you there though.
And what is the song on repeat on your phone right now? If I were to pull up Spotify or something.
Ooh, good one. I don't know, actually. I don't play music on my phone generally.
Where do you play music from?
We have like our Google Home Play. We have a record player actually, which is fun.
Wait, tell me your favorite record.
Oh gosh, we have a lot of classics and jazz. We spent a year in Vienna because my younger one's a composer, so I got to be the accompanying parent all of 2022 to 2023. So we've just collected a huge collection of opera and everything. So I think I actually like the variety. I enjoy that the most.
Oh, okay. That's so exciting. Oh, okay. I want to ask more about this later. But what is your current favorite character in a book?
Gosh, that is also hard. I just read Marie Lu's book. We're doing an event together at Romans in Pasadena, and I loved that we both had a winter. Like I have a winter woo who's a girl, and she has a winter who's the love interest who's a boy.
Oh,
And
shout
he's great.
out. That's so great. Okay.
Shades of Winter. I love that. Abigail, you take one look at like your website and it's like you have such an impressive life so far, like where you went to school, the fact that you're a writer, like you work in tech, like all these different things. But I do want to know, I asked this about people who do have like kind of like multi hyphenates to them, like what fills your cup the most? Is it writing? Did you fall in love with writing specifically because you're like tired of the other facets of your life? Like, how did you come to be an author? I guess is the big question for me.
Yeah. I really didn't know I was a writer or an author. I had definitely had imposter syndrome. I never saw books that were like anything I was living or things that I knew about. So to me, books were things that I didn't know about. And actually, when you write a novel, it's about things that you deeply know about, that you're an expert in, which is also like for me, it was about like this Asian American identity journey for Love Boat Taipei. And then for Kisses, Codes, and Conspiracies, it's like teenagers in Silicon Valley. And so I think I had to get over that hurdle. But I definitely feel itchy until I write in a given day. So I do think like at heart, I am a writer. I have all these stories inside me that need to come out. And those years that I was working in tech, I was also writing about 2-3 hours a day. And I loved that balance because I think they grounded me in different ways.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm so fascinated with like the artistic process, right? Like this itchiness. I'm obsessed with that. I love that
that
you
word,
said that.
itchy. Yeah.
Can you guide us through like, okay, I don't know. I get all my ideas when I'm driving long distances, right? But
Right.
like, let's say you're driving or something, you get the idea. How do you like write it down or that process of getting it from your brain into like on a page or like whatever it goes through in between?
Yeah, actually it kind of drives my family crazy a little bit because I constantly am getting ideas. And then if I don't write them down, I will lose them. So I just dictate them onto my phone. I have like a memo. I use the notes file and I have probably like 100 different notes files now. I have like a book tour file, but I have all these little projects. Like my forthcoming one, I have one for Kisses, Codes, and Conspiracies that's actually called Spring Break because that was the original working title. And every time I get a random idea, I just stick it into the file that it belongs in. And when I can sit down at my computer, I go and process it all.
Can I ask actually because like I'm a notes app person too. Like I'll write a word down and then I'll come back to it a week later and be like, what did that word
That has happened
mean?
to me.
Yeah, like and I'm curious though, like when you have, like you said, you have multiple projects going on and that it's just like brewing in there. What makes like a Kisses, Codes, and Conspiracies stand out amongst the rest of them? Like, how do you know, like, this is what I'm going to actually focus on right now? What dictates that?
Yeah, that's a really great question because I do have a million ideas. And initially it was hard to sort through them. I went with where I still do this now, but I kind of what I'm most excited about. But then once I added a team, so now, I have agents, I have editors, they kind of tell me of my million ideas, what is currently selling, right? Because sometimes like things are dead. For a while, dystopian was dead. So I had a dystopian that I had to shelve. And I think there was a while that there was no picture books that were coming out. So I have a picture book actually that's in the works. So that's on a slower track. But now I'm actually in the stage where I have like, again, another million ideas. And I'm actually trying to figure out what's next because the first one was a romantic comedy, young adult. This one is a romantic comedy and a thriller. And then I've got a historical, and I actually do have a middle grade that's coming out next year. And I enjoy that diversity of writing, but a lot of times the industry wants you to keep writing the same thing. And I remember Taylor Swift, I went to her concert in Los Angeles right before my Love in Taipei premiere, which is like the best way to celebrate. And she actually said, thank you for letting me write all the different songs that I write because her repertoire is really varied. And I really resonated with that because I'm like, thank you. Like, people, please read my thriller, even though it's not like the same as Love Boat Taipei. It's not the same like incredible like character depth. It's the characters do have an arc, and I think they're very real, and people like them and enjoy them. But it's not a character study; it's an adventure. So, yeah, thank you to my readers for letting me write different things.
It's so beautiful. I've been biting into the world of YA and like that adventure kind of vibe and that thriller kind of vibe. And I'm so into it. And I had the pleasure of reading your book for editorial purposes only. Thank you to your publishers. But it's so it like it grabs you, right? Like it's not like a character study. They take you on this ride and it's like a journey that you get to sit on with these characters. And it's so fun. Like so we got your incredible Love Boat Taipei, Love Boat Reunion, Love Boat Forever, and then Serendipity. And this was a short story in Serendipity.
That's
So
right.
can you tell us about that process of bringing this to life from a short story and how you brought this like heisty, thrilling situation into the ether?
Yeah. So Marissa Meyer invited me to join her short story anthology, and I was so honored. She is like a wonderful writer. My kids were reading her books, and I was like, yeah, sign me up. I'd never published a short story before, and I was a little intimidated because I think they're really hard. They're super tight. It has to be interesting. Like you have to condense it all. Like you don't have time to like figure it all out. But I did have a germ of an idea, and the theme of her anthology was inverting romantic tropes. And so we had a list of tropes that we got to choose from, and I chose class warfare. My mom came from a wealthy family in the Philippines. My father came from like a dirt poor family in Indonesia. And so I grew up with that disparate in my house. My mom's like, don't do that. And my dad's like, our house is a museum. I don't feel comfortable. Right. So I just kind of grew up with that innate tension between the classes. And so it's always been on my radar screen. And also just growing up in America very comfortably. And I would go visit family in the Philippines and I would see these kids running through the slums. And so I think that understanding like this, the world is really, the spectrum of wealth and poverty is really extreme in our world. I wanted to capture that in my works. And so this one is, a piece of that. Rebecca turns out to be the heiress to a billionaire family. And Tan is actually, he's kind of an ordinary kid whose parents are a little bit like, they've made a comfortable living for themselves in Palo Alto. And so he's kind of from the wrong side of the tracks for a girl who's from that type of family. So I enjoyed exploring that dynamic in the short story. There's a very specific moment that kind of the slap, we call it the slap, when the girl's family, basically lets them know we do not approve of this relationship. And that was it. That was kind of it. He had to recover. The short story like had a happy ending. And then the editor loved the characters and the setup so much that she asked me to write a novel follow-on. So I got to write this one. And the setup is that Winter Wu, who's this girl down here at the bottom, she and her widowed mother are renting out the back rooms of Tan's home in Palo Alto. And that's how his scrappy parents were able to afford a home in this expensive neighborhood. They're just renting out the rooms. And she, and they end up going to prom together and it ends up being this magical night. And so my editor asked me for a babysitting story where the two of them would babysit Tan's younger sister. And that's kind of what she was excited about. Like, what a cool setup. They would learn how to take care of someone else who's vulnerable and like all the little things that go into that. And as I was writing it, I did feel this like need for higher stakes. And so enter ex-girlfriend Rebecca, the billionaire from Shanghai. She shows up on Tan's doorsteps while parents are gone with these stolen Tang coins. I don't want to get away. So Tang Dynasty coins that she's going to pawn off to fund this like runaway lifestyle, and a bunch of thugs on her heels. And so that sends the three of them like running around through the Bay Area. And it just kind of evolved from there. Like I was like, oh, she comes back. I know she's trouble and she's bringing trouble with her. And then from there, the story just took off.
Wow, that's such an interesting like pipeline of like how the story further evolves, even from like the trope picking, like because that's something I always love asking creatives about. Is like there are obviously, especially like with a romance or something, it's like there's so many tropes you could do or you see a lot. So it's like subverting that and then eventually becoming a heist. So it's kind of like awesome to me. Which I definitely want to talk about the heist aspect. But before we get into that, you mentioned the Bay Area. I'm a Bay boy myself. I grew up up there most of my life. I've been out in LA for a while now, but you do live in San Francisco right now. Is that like?
That's right. Yeah.
Amazing. Why set this story there? I'm just so curious. Like, what stood out about the Silicon Valley for you?
Yeah, well, like I said, you write what you know, and I've been here now in the Bay Area for about 15 years. So, but I came in with an outsider's perspective. So that kind of gives me a lens to see things that maybe people who grew up here may not notice is so different than the rest of the world. And so I think I've found like the things that are fascinating, and I get to kind of highlight them in my works. I have multiple books that are set in Silicon Valley now. My forthcoming one is also a Silicon Valley story, and I actually wrote two scripts now that are based in this area. So I'm just kind of mining from all the cool things that happen here. Like it's the center of the tech revolution. It really reaches the whole world. The products here made here are brought everywhere. And then the kids, I think they grow up in such a fascinating way. So my main character, he is like a cryptographer. He's an expert in this area, but he doesn't even know he's an expert because it's just what his family does. And I find that's true for a lot of kids here. They're very resourceful. They grow up in amazing families, but they just kind of take it for granted.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's super interesting to me, just because I don't know if your experience is like the reverse of this, but whenever I went somewhere that wasn't the Bay, I'd be shocked when it wasn't super diverse and mixed, because I grew up in like a melting pot of like all these Asian and Latino and white and black. Like it was beautiful. Like I'm so lucky that I got to grow up there. But then on top of that is like the tech boom and just like everything that's coming out of that place. I don't know. I'm always proud when someone's like, "Yeah, I'm representing the Bay." It's like, "Yeah, the Bay."
Yeah. And the kids, the three kids are Asian and Asian American. But as you know, they end up at a teen shelter where they get to see that some of that diversity of the Bay Area.
Love that.
Wow. I do want to know too, like you have two kids of your own and you're like YA queen, right? So how do your children like do they kind of inspire you in different ways, or their stories or their journey inspire your characters at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of talking about stories and technology and innovation. Like I joke that our dinner table is our laboratory, where we workshop all our different ideas. So yes, ever since they were little, I've been talking to them about my stories. I tell them stories. I can tell like what's engaging to them, what's not. My new one that's coming out next year, the middle grade, my younger one had read it 3 times and gave me feedback along the way. So
oh my gosh.
yeah, it is really fun to have kids growing up as I'm doing these things. And I definitely run ideas by them all the time. And a lot of times the technology, they know even more than me. So I'll just be like, get a check. Like, does this make any sense at all?
I love that you have like an in-house focus group.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
That's so cool, actually. I love that. I want to talk about, because like from a writing perspective, I think a heist is like such an interesting thing to tackle, because they're very exciting, right? When as from a film perspective, when I'm watching a heist play out, I'm like, how did they think of like what the next steps are? But for you, when you're writing it in like book form, I'm just curious about authoring like the words to making it just as exciting and like building that tension. What were some of the keys that you felt were important to like get like kind of the heist and thriller aspects right in Kisses, Codes, and Conspiracies?
Ah, gosh, great question. I tend to write backwards. Like I know where the story's going. And then I just kind of reverse engineer, like, okay, where is it that they need to be in order to get there? With this story, that wasn't true. I outlined it and then I wrote it and it didn't follow the outline at all. It kind of just really evolved in little different ways. Like I had the Tang Dynasty coins initially because I'm like, oh, they're cool. And also they match up with his little sister's game. Like she has this pirates and pink game that also has gold coins in it. And I didn't know why I didn't have any reason for them to be confusing. It just was cool that they matched. And of course she caused trouble because she thought these precious Tang Dynasty coins were her toys and she took them and they vanished for a while. So I had like things like that, but I didn't know how those were going to pay off. And then I was like, there's probably more to these Tang Dynasty coins than meets the eye, but I wasn't sure what that was. And so for a long time, I actually wrote the whole novel and I didn't know it was on the Tang Dynasty coins. And so I don't want to spoil it for the readers, but once I figured out what was going on with these coins, like it just kind of all fell into place. And like, that's what's going on. That's why these thugs are after her. And that's why they need Tan. And that was actually the really coolest part because it's Tan's story at the end of the day. And I didn't know what his arc was. I just knew he was going on this journey. It was important to him. And I realized his journey is imposter syndrome. Like he does not realize how good he is. And that's partly because he got ghosted by this girl for 6 months. And there's this moment in the story where he's like ruminating. He's like, he spent an hour dinner with her billionaire family, not knowing they were a billionaire family. And then after that, they whisked her off, took her out of the country to get away from him. Right. And so that just really left him this deep wound. Like he's not good enough. And so I really loved I was like, okay, this is what's going on with him. He needs to go on this journey to understand his worth and understand just how good he is, how far he will go to protect his friends and family, and what he's capable of doing.
Oh my gosh. I wish I had someone directly talking about imposter syndrome in the stuff I was reading as a kid. That's amazing. I got chills.
What a perspective. What a perspective. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Knowing all of that about him. Oh, geez. Okay. I do want to know though, when talking about your journey of like
Mm.
outlining and then abandoning the outline and doing all these things. Last year we met you when you were executive producer on your film, Love in Taipei. How has that yes! Shout out to Love in Taipei on Paramount Plus. And now it's
on Netflix. Yes, it just dropped this weekend.
That's so cool.
yes.
Thank you all for
Netflix.
helping us
Oh,
get there.
absolutely. It was such a joy. But I do want to know, like, between last year as EP and now, like, you're in your author, like, you're always in your author shoes. But how has that influenced how you write and the journey and like kind of, writing this tapestry together?
Mm.
Yeah, it is. I am still figuring out like what my life is. I like at the top of this year, I was like, wow, I'm traveling a lot. And then I was like, someone said to me, a writer's life is mostly travel if you're lucky, right? Because if no one wants to hear from you, then you'll just sit at home writing and you won't be traveling anywhere. So that's kind of a new thing for me because I actually mentioned earlier, I spent 2022 to 2023 in Vienna, Austria with my kid who was studying music and composition there. And I got to be the accompanying parent. And it worked out for me because I was pre-launch of the movie and the book, and then the third Love Boat book, actually. And so I could just really be anywhere, working from anywhere. And I loved that time, but I didn't have to travel. I was just there in Europe. And then I came back and suddenly it was like all this promotion for the film. And then I promoted the third novel. And now we're doing, kisses. So I'm still trying to find the right balance between like the writing and the promotion that has to get done so that people can find out and discover the books and the movie. And then I am working on a new secret project. It's a short film. That's my directorial debut. And so that is super exciting.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well,
wait, you're directing this? Oh, I don't want to ask you. Oh my gosh. What? No.
So yeah, that's like my new secret thing that's going on. We'll have to talk once it's public or right before it goes public.
Yeah,
so we can talk again.
That's amazing. I mean, Ash and I are big, filmmaking nuts. So like that's an exciting step. I am curious though, like having seen one of your stories become adapted into film, is there, when you write now, do you kind of have like a hope, at least, like maybe not an expectation, but a hope of like, this is going to be a really cool movie or a show or something? Do you think about that, or is that, do you separate it? Okay.
Yeah, it actually began with the book right before Love Boat Taipei. I wrote a book that I wrote 4 novels that I buried on the way to Love Boat Taipei because I couldn't get through the gates. It was before Crazy Rich Asians and Hamilton opened up the world for diverse stories, and one book after them. Plus, I was also just learning to be a better writer. So my 4th novel that didn't publish, I signed with a big agency and they were like, oh, movie rights, like Taylor Swift, let's attach it, right? And then the book didn't even sell. Like it couldn't get through the gates. So I think that's where my appetite was whetted. And then with Love Boat Taipei, again, everyone was like, oh, we can totally see this as a movie. And when we went to auction with the editors, they were all pitching movie rights. The agents were pitching movie rights. And then very soon, like after we announced the deal, the studio started calling. So for sure, my appetite was whetted. I wanted to learn the filmmaking process, which is partly why I was such an involved executive producer. So I was there on set the whole time in Taiwan. Wow. And with this one, we have actually gotten interest from talent, Asian American talent. And I really do want to see it get all the way to the screen. Our community is still up and coming in Hollywood. And so for this to get all the way to the screen, like it does help when the books are strong. And so I'm like, thank you for getting word out. Hardcover hardcover sales first week, which is this week, is huge. And those go a long way. Our community's buying patterns don't tend to fit into these traditional structures. And so that's why I kind of just let people know that's what it is. Like actually a lot of people buy the ebook, the audiobook, which is also great. But for first week, hardcover is like what moves the needle.
Gotcha. I had no idea.
Manifest.
Thank you. Please.
That's really good to know, though. Shout out, always buy hardcover first week. Hardcover first week.
It reminds me of like the Netflix numbers where it's like, if this performs really well in the first 2 weekends, we might get you a sequel. And it's just like those little things as a consumer, you don't know that until
you're like, I'll watch it end of the month when I have got some time, right?
Exactly. But then when you see like filmmakers out there being like, or like yourself right now being like, this is what actually moves the needle. I'm glad that we have ways of spreading that information.
Yes, no, I do try to tell the community. The other key aspect is Amazon counts half towards these bestseller lists compared to Barnes and Noble and independent bookstores. And so
half of
hardcover
like the
at your
way
independent bookstore.
the metrics work.
Yeah, they count twice as much. And like the idea is like we do want to like protect our local independent booksellers because they do know the community and they put books right into their hands. They put books into their hands that not only feed them, but they also know how to challenge their readers. And so we do, that is why we want to support our local independent stores. But it's also helpful for the community to understand like there's a real impact from buying on Amazon versus these stores.
Wow. So just to clarify, when you buy from like a Barnes and Noble or like an independent bookseller, it counts fully towards like the numbers and everything. And when you buy from Amazon, only half.
That's right.
Whoa.
That's so interesting because
so good to know.
I'm sure numbers wise, so many people are accessing through Amazon.
My readership buys on Amazon.
Wow.
So for sure, Amazon, they buy ebooks, they buy audiobooks.
Buying on Amazon basically versus
yeah. So it means it's actually 6 times harder for a book like this.
Absolutely. Abigail, this is like, I can't even tell you how valuable this knowledge is about like hardcovers, about like the buying numbers and everything. I want to plaster this knowledge everywhere and just like shout it from the rooftops because that's invaluable knowledge. So
yeah, no, it does make a difference. It does impact our community. So thank you for helping to get word out as usual. So
absolutely.
I did have a question though, because you said you buried 4 novels before you got one up. Does that mean you wrote full novels and then they're just gone? Like
I did. Yeah.
No future, nothing. Like you just had to say goodbye.
So now the benefit actually of having come out the gates so strongly with Love Boat Taipei is that I am able to take those other books and bring them back now. Okay. The first one my agent has been asking me for, it's a middle grade high fantasy, but I don't feel like I'm ready to dig into it yet. And so it's just sitting there. My second one is like, there's a lot of political issues around it, but is it the fourth one? No, sorry. I think I mixed up something. So the one I mentioned before that was supposed to be a movie, that was the third one. The fourth one actually is the one that's coming out next year. Okay. And that one is a story about artificial intelligence that I wrote in 2015. And it was just too early. People were like, what is this? I don't understand it. So now it's like, now that there's like this hype around it, it's the right time to bring it out.
Yeah. Interesting. Man, that's got to hurt the soul a little bit.
It is hard to bear a novel.
I mean, you mentioned AI. I know you've worked with it and like spoken to it. But I'm curious, like as creatives, our relationship with AI is like tumultuous at best, I would say. There's like a lot of conversations on why it's good, why it's bad, why it's a threat. So like in your opinion, as someone who is working in the space but also has a deep knowledge of it, how do you view artificial intelligence at least at this point in like where it's at?
Yeah, well, it's coming. It's here to stay. It's already been here. Like I said, I wrote the novel in 2015. So I think creatives need to get on top of their own derivative products. So I actually just had dinner last night with my actress from Love and Taipei, Chelsea. She was in town and we were talking about the body scans that actresses are doing now. I'm like, you should never, ever give up the rights to your body scan. You can license it and get money for that, but like you should always own the rights to your own body. And, similarly, like what I tell people now is, the iPhone has replaced the portrait painter. There are still portrait painters. My judge had a very lovely portrait painted of her by the same portrait painter who did the Clintons painting in the White House. But really, there's very few. Instead, everyone can capture people the way they see them all the time. And that's kind of created a whole new category of artists who didn't have the capability of painting the portrait themselves. And so I think that's true for these AI tools. There will be people who can write that have ideas that wouldn't be able to express them otherwise. And so we'll be able to get access to their ideas. And for me, like I use images to communicate with my team internally to share like my directorial vision for this short film that I'm doing. And that's really valuable because I can't draw. And translating it through someone else would be much more complicated. And so with like, by looking at thousands of AI generated images, I'm like, okay, that one works. This one works. It's not as good as what a human will do, but it's able to convey like, in a storyboard way, this is like what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
I think these tools can be very, very valuable to artists, but artists need to learn how to use them.
I do think that's like the best use of it as like either inspiration or like concept art, or it is a tool at the end of the day. I think like it's like a scary topic because like, as an actor, I'm thinking like, oh, if I record my voice and they have my voice forever, that's terrifying. Right. But then I also booked a gig where like, I did like a voiceover read, and then they changed my voice into like someone else's voice, and I was like, that's kind of scary too. Like but it's crazy because the technology is already so good and getting better every day. And so like I don't know, I'm not against it, but I also want to know what regulations look like, and like how do you regulate it so that you're not losing that human touch, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I know there definitely need to be more regulations. Like I used to write about it too, or speak about it. There were thousands of AI startups in Silicon Valley putting out this really powerful technology, and it's multi-use. So the technology can be used for one thing and another. So lip reading technology, which is supposed to be for the hearing impaired, can also be used for espionage. So a lot of these tools can be weaponized, and we do need people paying attention and understanding the impact and the collateral impacts.
Wow. I know we're taking we're getting to the wire here on time, but I do think we're gonna need to have you back when your secret project is coming on.
Oh yeah.
Because we'd love to talk to you about the filmmaking journey as well, because again, we geek out on that stuff, and I'm so curious what you're cooking up. I know you can't talk about it, but before we leave, before we say goodbye on today's episode, we do like to always pass the mic to our guests. So, any opportunity to promote yourself, what work you might have coming up, or if there's advice you want to give, anything that you'd like to say. This is our moment on our small platform for you to share whatever you're feeling right now.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I'm so grateful to be here. Tomorrow is my launch day for Kisses, Codes, and Conspiracies. So please go out to your bookstores, Barnes & Noble, your independent bookstores, grab a bunch of hard copies, give them out to your friends, spread the word. We really do rely on word of mouth, and then rate the book. So that's something else our community doesn't tend to do. I get private DMs, love your book. I'm like, please tell the world. So rating on Amazon and Goodreads really helps the algorithms to push the book out even further to more audiences. And so that goes a long way. Thank you so much for having me. Follow me on social media, Abigail Hing Wen. And you can also sign up for my newsletter at my website, abigailhingwen.com.
Amazing way to wrap it up. Thank you so much for spending your morning with us. That was a really enlightening conversation. I feel like I sat through a really exciting class in a good way,
Oh, thank you for having me, and again for all your support. I look forward to chatting again.
Yes, yeah. Abigail, can't wait.
The Tremendous Talk podcast is produced by Lawrence Sharma, Ashley Rapuano-Sanchez, Gabriela David, Joseph Garalde, and Jeremiah Abraham in collaboration with Tremendous. The Tremendous Talk podcast jingle is by Jared Sanchez and Ashley Rapuano-Sanchez, produced at Amsterdam Records.